Hey guys, this is Kevin Smith Jr., your host for the Container Happy Hour. Grab a drink, join us every 2 weeks, and we'll talk containers and future of the market. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 9 of the Container Happy Hour. Here with my very special guest, Mr. Mark DePasquale. What's up, brother? Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year, Kev. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I appreciate you doing this with us.
Hey, I'm happy. I'm happy to be here, actually.
So let's do a little cheers first, and then we'll let you explain what we're drinking.
All right.
There we go, brother.
Cheers.
Hey, look at that glass.
I purposely pointed in this direction for you.
Ooh. Okay, this is good. So I'm going to let you explain this, but you have sent me this really awesome bottle of bourbon that we're both drinking, and there's pictures of your granddaughters on the back, right?
Yes, sir. So be honest, is it good or no?
It is. I actually like it. I'm a big bourbon fan.
Oh, cool. So I'm not
explain
actually. I'm not actually a big bourbon fan, but you know, when you have a few shots of whiskeys, you know, you do some crazy things, which I would say is how I came to get these bottles.
Okay.
So I'll just show you. I mean, so VR. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah, VR Vienna Ray. That's my my second granddaughter, who was born on September 16th, 2020, which is on the label. The story goes, the day my granddaughter was born, or actually the day they came home from the hospital, I went to my daughter's house and I invited my son-in-law to go have a drink. And we found ourselves, because here in New Jersey, we had a lot of the COVID restrictions with bars, et cetera. We found ourselves at a distillery, a local distillery.
Naturally.
And the owner, who we got to know through sitting there having a few drinks, he started to explain this, 5-grain bourbon whiskey that had been aging for 3+ years. And, 3-4 whiskeys later, I owned a barrel of it.
I love it. I love it. It's actually really cool. And I'll tell you the best part for me was when we were talking about doing this and I said, okay, well, what do you want to drink on it? The guest picks. And you're like, oh no, I have something very specific that we're drinking. So this is really cool, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and just so you know, I did design the label as well. And I had to, because I didn't do this for my first granddaughter, I had to include her in the picture. So
right. Equal love. So one day they'll know that there was no favorites.
So here's to Vienna Ray.
Cheers, brother. That is so cool. So let's kind of roll into this a little bit. And maybe if you want to start with some of your industry history, maybe how you kind of got involved in the container world prior to becoming the CEO at MPSA the way you are now. Like, give us a little buildup of how you got to this point in your career.
So, I mean, it's a lot of years, obviously, and without boring a lot of people. My first job into or being exposed to containers per se is when I was hired at a company called Genstar Instant Space. At that time, that was 1989, and Genstar Instant Space, actually, Genstar, which was one of the leading leasing companies in the industry at that point, had just acquired ITEL Instant Space. And with that acquisition, they changed the name of Instant Space to Genstar Instant Space, and that's when I was hired. I was hired primarily to market used marine containers into the domestic market for many of the things that we see today. You know, the business is similar, but so much different, right? 30 years later.
Sure.
Sure. You know, I was going out there looking for a gas station to put tires in it. Anybody and everyone who might have a need to use old used containers. Now, as you know, the industry has evolved so much since then.
Yeah, that was wild. I mean, you were out there with those flat panel ITEL boxes, right? And now
we had everything. Fiberglass reinforced plywood boxes.
Yeah, there you go.
So, and then, you know, just kind of moving along through my career, I cut my teeth in the in getting exposed to containers in that instant space business, which was the domestic side. At that time, that was sort of the ugly stepchild of the container leasing industry. So my aspirations were to get above and beyond that. I got myself into the international side of the business. I spent the next 25 years leasing equipment to the international liner companies, which was really the core business of all the leasing companies. I spent some time at Transocean Leasing, which is no longer around today. I moved over to Transamerica, which is no longer around today, and then ultimately ended up at Florence Container Services. And then up until 2017, we parted ways, or I parted ways. They parted my way, I should say, at Florence, because they were acquired by China Shipping. And so after having spent quite a bit of time there, I was out in the market, and I was contacted by the MPSA to join them and run the MPSA. And quite honestly, I had a lot of experience in understanding who they were and what they were trying to do, because I was a member at Florence of the MPSA for 20 years.
Right, right. And you were almost a natural fit, right? I mean, it couldn't have worked better the way some of those timelines envelope together, because when you look at your experience and you look at the exposure you had to the industry from the marine side, from the domestic side, like everything about it really folded in nicely, didn't it? To where you became a great candidate.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, I'm sure there's others who could have filled the role, of course, but you know, you kind of build a reputation, and opportunities come along, and you know, if you're in the right place at the right time, you have the a chance to take one of those opportunities up. And for me, I just happened to be released at Florence, and again, not for anything negative, but you know, it was just more of a redundancy in terms of their merging with another leasing company. But basically, what had happened was the MPSA, as you know, was being run for several years on a volunteer basis through members. And I think the association at that point was at a time where they wanted to go full time with a paid individual, because quite frankly, we were existing as an association, but we weren't progressing as I think many of the members would have liked to see.
Yeah, exactly. I would agree. And I think you and I worked together for a long time when you were at Florence, obviously, and you had such a great team and such a great atmosphere around you and such a great reputation that I think it naturally, so many people that had those dealings with you transition now and view the same type of relationship with you. So that's a real compliment to how you've kind of made the MPSA feel. It doesn't feel like, oh, we're talking to the CEO. We don't have a voice. We don't have a relationship. It feels like that same dialogue we had, you know, whether we're working on one depot arrangement with Florence, right? So that's a big compliment to you, man.
Well, I appreciate that, and as I said, I'm excited to be here. You know, all good things must come to an end at some point, and I had spent 20 years at Florence. And you know, basically it was time to move on to something new. And if you asked me 5 years ago if I'd be running a trade association, I don't think I would have ever thought that.
No. So before Genstar, you know, what did you go to school for? I mean, it surely it wasn't containers, right?
No, actually, I went to Rutgers University, and I got an economics degree at Rutgers. When I left there, my dad, actually, I will admit, my dad put me through school, and he probably wanted me to go to college more than I did. And so when I finished, I remember going to a headhunter, and the headhunter had asked me, you know, I was going there looking for a job, obviously, in economics, marketing, business, something to that effect. And they offered me a job to place temporary employees at manufacturing companies around the area. I was so excited to get to work and wanting to earn money that I took the job. When I told my dad, he absolutely blew a gasket. He's like, "What? I put you through school to go get a temporary, you know, I don't know if you remember the company Busy Bee. You know, it's that wasn't the one I worked for, but it was like that, basically placing temporary workers into manufacturing facilities, et cetera. So it wasn't very happy in that. But I will tell you, the way I got into the leasing business is that didn't last more than about 4 or 5 years. I progressed well in that organization, and I got into their sales group. But ultimately, it was a husband-wife team that ended up getting divorced. And I decided to go to a headhunter again, and that's where I was introduced to my first leasing company.
That's wild. But you were a Jersey guy though, right? Through and through. So going to the State University of New Jersey, that was a good pull, right? Rutgers was
born, raised, and my entire career I've spent in New Jersey. Even today, running the MPSA, that's where I sit.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I looked up the fun fact I found when I was looking up Rutgers, because I knew that's where you went. It was originally called Queens College.
It was.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's kind of a fun fact.
Listen, don't get me too much on the history there, because I don't know very much, other than the fact that I know the first football game was between Princeton and Rutgers, I believe, the first collegiate game, I think.
Yeah, I'm not going to take you on a deep dive and really test your fandom or anything. I just thought that was an interesting tidbit.
Yeah, don't ask me to sing the university song.
Oh, that's actually what we're doing at the end of the episode. That's how we're like fading out, is just you singing the alma mater. So switch back to today. Obviously, you're in this incredible role and doing good things for the MPSA. Explain to anyone that might watch a quick elevator pitch. What is the MPSA? How does it bring value to its members? And what is your kind of goal there?
So, at the end of the day, we are a trade association, a nonprofit trade association that was established in 2002. We've been around for quite some time. And over the years since its inception, our industry has changed quite a bit. And we are basically a trade association for those companies who are in the portable storage business. And although we're very much associated with companies in the container business, meaning on the international side, depots, liner companies, leasing companies, et cetera, our primary purpose is for portable storage companies around the world. And our mission statement is to help them network, educate them, help with marketing and advocacy in order to improve and lift the entire industry. And so that's really what our objective is. We have a lot of members who are using marine containers, which is how we get into maybe this perception of being very much connected to marine containers.
So when you first started, you kind of got thrown to the fire right away, right? Because we were shortly after your inception in the bigger picture talking about the trade tariffs with China, right? And the administration was pushing those forward. Containers were actually on the original notification, right? And that was early on in your tenure. So do you want to hit on that a little bit? I mean, what did that feel like as you started and you get this bomb dropped on you and you kind of became the face of orchestrating getting containers removed?
Well, I mean, the effort to get containers removed from that effort by the administration, the Trump administration, when they were putting tariffs on every single import coming in from China, that was a group effort, right? The MPSA was part of a very large group effort. We partnered personally. Our association partnered with the IICL, and together, along with other industry colleagues, we battled against that. And we provided written testimony. We went down to Washington. We testified on Capitol Hill. And yeah, I mean, to say thrown to the wolves in a sense, that was my first ever experience having to deal with Washington bureaucrats. But we had some really good help. We had some good partnerships with our industry colleagues, and we were successful not just on the first go around, but we were placed back on Tranche 4. When basically the Trump administration put every single item that was originally removed back on again for a second time. And lo and behold, I'm proud to say that containers were removed as one of very few products that had this import tax on them coming from China. So really just a handful of items.
It was single digits that ended up getting removed from the overall list, wasn't it?
Well, I would say in each tranche, yeah, I mean, it was a very small number. I don't remember the specific numbers going back quite some time, but could be 3,500 items, and we were 10 different items that were taken off. So
right,
and that was helpful because not only are we fighting for the marine container companies, the ones who are using marine containers and portable storage domestically, but a lot of the companies who are using now these portable storage and moving units, which are also called containers, not originally purposed for international shipping. You're familiar with pods, for example. Our industry has evolved so much that those containers are also being manufactured over in China and being imported. So, we were successful not just for the marine container owners, but also for those who are importing those portable storage and moving containers.
Absolutely. I mean, it was such a tremendous victory, and you looked through it, and I think at one point you spoke about it really well, in the sense that you explained there was no comparable manufacturing capacity in the United States, right? Which was the point on the surface of all these tariffs, was to kind of equalize the global playing field. And when you looked at containers, there wasn't that capacity here for us to cost effectively make them. So the end result was people like us in America actually suffering more from the tariffs than the alternative. So I think you put that so well when you ended up preparing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, 99.9% of every piece of equipment is produced in China. And it's not a mistake as to why that is. I mean, ultimately today, the most profitable exports are coming from China, not just the United States, but every country around the world. And quite frankly, there's not much we can do here as a country that could, make that difference up in terms of, profitability on the first move of a container, right? Ultimately, when a container is produced, you want it right where you're going to load it. And quite frankly, we have a 2-to-1 import to export ratio here in the United States, and quite, that's not going to allow us to build containers here that we have to move back empty to China to be loaded with cargo. Now, will that change in the coming years? Maybe. I don't suspect manufacturing is going to grow here in the United States, although a lot of people would like to think that's the case, but it may move from China to Southeast Asia or other places. But ultimately, the place to build containers is probably not going to be here in the United States.
I would agree. And that's spoken like a real economics major. So good stuff there, man. So what else would you classify as some of the biggest challenges you've faced in your term there with NPSA? Certainly that's one of them, if not the biggest, right?
Yeah, that's one of them. But time has passed. That's gone. There's only so much we can talk about that. And quite frankly, now that we're coming into a new administration, I don't think that will raise its ugly head again. I don't think, based on what I'm hearing. So I think we can kind of look beyond that. And my focus today is really how to overcome some of the challenges we're facing with COVID. As an association, one of the best advantages or biggest advantages of being a member to this association is the networking that we provide amongst members, so they can share best practices and ideas and so forth, but also bringing our associate members who are providing products and services in to that regular membership. And because we're not able to have our in-person events, that's caused a real problem for us. So in 2020, we pivoted. We went a lot. We didn't have our in-person events, but we moved heavily towards educational sessions. We created a venue for our associate members to present their products, their services, and also stay in front of the membership, which they rely on heavily to maintain their sales. And this year in 2021, looking ahead, at least in the early part, I don't see much relief in terms of that. And although we haven't made the official decision yet, we are on the brink of potentially canceling our in-person event for April and going to, for the first time ever, a virtual conference and trade show.
So you're always looking to bring value to the association, even if the in-person event doesn't happen this year in Las Vegas. So I've seen a little bit of the preliminary work on this digital virtual conference idea. So speak to that a little bit and talk to what that might look like.
So obviously, if the conference and trade show is not going to take place, we have to do something. We have to continue to find ways to bring value and benefit to our members. And I'm learning, right? This is the first time I've been faced with this kind of thing, but we've already done a lot of investigation on platforms that can handle such an event. Our objective is to try to bring our associate members into a exhibit type format, so our members can stay in touch with those companies, learn about what's happening this year and moving forward. But we're also going to put together a tremendous lineup of content, both education and information for our membership. We're doing a lot of things here at the MPSA, and the conference and trade show is one venue that allows us to communicate that to all of our members, to let them know what's happening, what's taking place, what are we doing, and there's several things. You know that we've worked with the IAS to create an accreditation for container modifications. We're putting together a community forum that's going to replace our existing format, which is a bit archaic, and that's going to connect direct to our website. So a lot of this stuff requires our members to be present so we can educate them on what's happening, and not just general industry education, but also association education. And this is why we're going to go down this road.
Yeah, no, I think it's tremendous. And I love the fact that you're just continuing to move forward, because the hand that we've been dealt, everyone's in it. So let's just keep going. And talk a little, you mentioned it briefly there, but talk a little bit about the IAS stuff and what that timeline is and what that might mean for the members.
So we as an association put together a technical committee, and the technical committee created a procedural document in which any member can adopt and abide to, that the IAS would then be the official company of inspection to that criteria. And ultimately, you know, what this is it's our effort to legitimize and to lift our industry and bring some safety to it, right? We have a lot of companies doing container modifications, and so this is just another opportunity for us to get in front of building inspectors, have the MPSA and our industry become more familiar to local building inspectors, and allow them to know that we are a credible industry that's expanding, not just with portable storage, but with container modifications and containers being used as building products.
Sure. And do you think this facilitates a better ease of use all the way directly in front of a permitting officer?
Well, the objective is to eliminate the inspection process, right? At least for what our criteria is geared for, which is primarily structural and welding. But the idea is that now it's difficult, especially in some local communities, to put a piece of equipment out on a piece of property without having it being inspected every time you do that. And so if you become an accredited company recognized by the IAS, then they will approve you as an accredited organization that can pump out this equipment and put it anywhere without having to deal with local building inspectors.
Yeah, no, that's tremendous. I hope the membership at large takes advantage of that and really gets involved, because that technical committee and yourself have done a tremendous job getting that pushed to the next step. So that's something I'm sure you'll be sending memos out on. We
will. In fact, we're gonna officially announce it at the virtual conference. We'll announce the information prior to, but we're going to do some presentations and education for the members to have them understand what it is, the benefits of it, Is it a way around dealing with inspectors? Not necessarily, but it does give companies an advantage in being a more credible organization, and it brings credibility to the industry, not just with the product you have, but just the overall industry, in that we're working and we're attempting to work in an elevated, safe manner, so our products are widely accepted. Because right now there are a lot of building inspectors out there that aren't familiar with container modifications or portable offices, containers being used as building products, etc. So this is the first step in moving in that direction.
No, it's tremendous. And there's also not a uniformity amongst the container organizations as far as how they do the work, how they do the installs, how they do the reinforcements. So this kind of cleans up some of that too. Brings everything to a good level.
Yeah, Kev, I do want to make a point though. I think it's important to recognize that in order to put equipment out on lease with modifications, whether it's welding, etc., you don't necessarily have to agree to try to be IAS accredited. It's just that you still have to go through the normal process to make sure someone's inspecting your equipment and making sure it looks good and it's safe to be used.
Yeah, good point. Very good point. So now look at the overall market, kind of step outside of the MPSA and go back to that global picture that I know you had for a long time. What do you see out there? I mean, besides difficulties with sourcing and availability, record highs at factory pricing, what kind of things are you seeing? Are you talking to people about that are interesting to you right now in the overall market?
Well, I think one of the most impactful events that's taken place in the last few months is that the supply of equipment into our portable storage industry is really slowing down. And a lot of that has to do with the imbalances of trade, pricing at the manufacturer, the demand for equipment by the international liner companies. So all of this is playing an impact. We as an industry rely heavily on marine containers coming into our market. But if the delivery of equipment into our market doesn't make sense from an international standpoint, then we suffer in terms of our supply point. And right now, there's not a lot of equipment in the United States. Equipment is being moved back to the Far East very rapidly in order to meet the demand coming out of the Far East. So typically when you find high demand, you find high lease company utilization. And when you find high lease company utilization, used equipment sort of goes away, right? Because if I'm a leasing company, my core business is to provide equipment to the international side. And if there's a demand there, then I have less of a need to rid my fleet of equipment.
Sure. And have you ever seen a cycle like this where the leasing community has stayed at that 97, 98, 99 level for so long?
Well, there's a lot of reasons why utilization is so high these days, but it's extremely high right now. And I have seen it before. It's very rare. In my 30 years of working on the international leasing side, I can count on one hand the number of times we've been in the catbird seat. And this time for leasing companies, everything is good, right? You have high utilization, high demand. You have great pricing on the resale side of the business, right? Because supply and demand. Here's my economics degree again.
Rutgers, play the theme, baby.
Yeah, so obviously there's limited supply, so price on the used container side is going up dramatically. I would say the only downside is that price in the Far East for new equipment is also going up. And that's not necessarily down for the leasing companies because they price their leases typically on 5 to 7 long-term leases for 5 to 7 years, and they price it in accordance with the new production pricing. The sale of equipment is a very important piece to the overall return on investment for the leasing companies. And the fact that they're getting so much more money now on a 12, 13-year-old container is so important to their success. And I would say that they're enjoying their time right now, but it will be short-lived. comes around very infrequently and for only a short period of time.
Right. To where
last time I can remember was 2010.
Okay, there you go. So you can't fault them for capitalizing on this right now. You know, while they've got all those boxes checked, they need to maximize the numbers they can get, because we all know it's going to cycle back down and return to some kind of semblance. Do you have a crystal ball prediction for what you see for 21?
No, I don't actually, but I will tell you this. From what I've seen historically, this doesn't last years, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm if I had to bet, I would say, we'll start seeing some relief middle part of next year.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Don't quote me.
No, you're fine. It's not like this is going to get published for everyone to have proof of you saying it. So we're kind of nearing the end of this, and again, I really appreciate all the time and insight that you've given us, Mark. Talk to me a little bit about the MPSA again, and what are some key aspects that you want to address? Are there industry sectors that maybe people don't realize are a big component of the association? Are there companies or specific niches that you look at and you say, this is something we really cater to, and we want to make sure these guys feel included in our plan?
Well, thanks for bringing that up, Kevin. You and I go back a while. You're younger than your dad, obviously, and he and I go back a little bit further. Yeah, our association was born of companies getting into the portable storage business using marine containers, and that's what our background is. But in fact, our industry on the portable storage side has evolved over the years, and we've seen companies that have evolved sort of in between the marine container portable storage business and also the moving business, right? The traditional moving company business. And so now we've seen a lot of companies get into our portable storage business that are providing portable storage and moving services to more of the residential customers. And so I don't want to miss out on those companies, because they're an important part of our customer or our member base, and it's important for them to know. Although we talk quite a bit here about marine containers, it's important for them to know, as an association, we represent all companies who are in the portable storage business, not just those portable storage companies that are using marine containers, but also those companies that are using portable storage and moving containers, the ones that are built specifically for the domestic storage market. But also, let's not forget about the trailers as well. This entire industry started well before marine containers, using trailers that were no longer needed for for domestic use and transporting equipment around the United States. And so that's sort of the origin of our association, right? It started with the trailer. We got these trailers into the portable storage business, bumped up against loading docks that were no longer needed or no longer actually roadworthy. And then of course the container came on the scene, and so we evolved, right? We evolved trailers, containers, portable storage and moving containers, and today we are an association for all of those companies. We are a portable storage association, only one of its kind, really, in the entire world. And we're looking forward to grow, not just with the container users, but also the portable storage and moving container users.
Yeah, really well said, Mark, and led by a hell of a guy. So I think it's really exciting, the growth plan for MPSA, for all the members, for all the different avenues that this sector is going to pursue. And even though 2021 is going to have its challenges, I think we've got some really exciting things ahead of us this year.
I agree, and there'll be some challenges, but I'm excited. We live and we learn. Just like we learned about the tariffs, now we're learning about virtual conferences.
There you go, brother. There you go. Again, I really appreciate you doing this, man. You've given us some great insight and been a hell of a guest, and obviously given me some terrific bourbon along the way.
Well, listen, enjoy that. And before we go, let me say that EMS Wouldn't be what it is without you. Tell your father I said that.
I'm just going to play that scene on loop for him.
Cheers.
Thanks, brother. Cheers.